You're being charged with criminal trespass. Those 6 words hit me like a hammer. I stared at Officer Williams, disbelief twisting inside me as my gaze fell on the patch of dirt where my private property sign had been planted just yesterday. My heart thudded against my ribs. That soil, that fence, that ground, my land. The deed sat safely in a drawer in my kitchen, signed, notarized, and filed. There must be some mistake, I said weakly. But when I looked across the street, Patricia Hamilton was standing there with that smug little grin that told me otherwise. Just the morning before, I was Dr. Michael Thompson, respected veterinarian, neighborhood helper, the guy everyone called for stray cats and injured raccoons. Now, I was a supposed criminal, being accused of invading my own backyard. How could one wooden post flip my life upside down? If you've ever wondered how terrifyingly far an HOA's power can reach, this was it. That Saturday had begun innocently enough. I remember standing outside with a coffee mug warming my hands. The air was crisp, the lawn freshly trimmed. My 9-year-old son Brandon was laughing as he kicked his soccer ball against the fence. The same fence that bordered a thin strip of grass, a small, disputed space that had fueled whispers in the neighborhood for years. When we bought this house 6 months ago, I made sure everything was legally airtight. My attorney had pawed over every inch of the survey. "This land is unquestionably yours," he had said. "Dad, can I set up my goal here?" Brandon shouted, pointing at a contested area. To a child, land ownership didn't mean much. Empty space was meant to be used. His question brought back flashes of my own boyhood, tree forts, backyard kingdoms, imaginary borders that felt absolute. "Sure, champ," I told him with a grin. "But let's make it official first." That was the moment the idea of the sign took root. Not as a warning, not as hostility, just a declaration of clarity. My job as a vet taught me that blurry lines lead to chaos. In medicine, boundaries save lives. In neighborhoods, they save sanity. At the hardware store, the sign I chose was simple: white background, black block letters, private property. It was factual, not aggressive. I spent the afternoon mixing cement, setting the post straight, ensuring it was perfectly aligned. Brandon helped, holding the level with exaggerated focus, his face scrunched up as if the fate of the world depended on his accuracy. It turned an ordinary chore into a small father-son memory. Inside, Jen watched from the kitchen window. I waved, expecting her usual bright smile. Instead, her brows furrowed. When I came inside for lunch, she was pacing near the counter, coffee gone cold. "Are you sure this is smart?" she asked softly, not looking up. "I just don't want to start anything with the neighbors." I pulled her close, brushing her hair from her face. "Honey, it's just a sign. Nothing confrontational. It's better to be clear before someone decides to test a line." She nodded but didn't seem convinced. Her body was tense. Now, looking back, I can recognize what that tension really was. Not fear of the HOA, but the guilt of a secret she was already keeping. By late afternoon, the job was done. My shirt clung to my back with sweat. But there's a deep satisfaction in physical work, something clean and honest about it. Brandon kicked his bull neigh by. "Dad," he asked, puzzled, "if it's already ours, why do we need a sign?" How do you explain to a kid that adults complicate simple truths? "It's like labeling your lunchbox," I said, chuckling. "It's still yours even without the name, but this way, everyone knows." He seemed to accept that easily, as children do when they trust you completely. That evening, I fired up the grill. Burgers sizzled, the sign gleamed in the fading light, and for the first time, the property felt whole. Jen brought out lemonade. Brandon laughed, and for that short hour, life was perfect. Until Jen's expression changed. "She's watching," she murmured, nodding across the street. I followed her gaze. Patricia Hamilton, the HOA president. Her posture was unnervingly straight, her phone raised, snapping photos of my freshly placed sign. There was no curiosity in her stance, only calculation. Should I talk to her? I asked. Before Jen could answer, Patricia turned sharply and disappeared into her house. The encounter lasted seconds, but left me uneasy. Years of handling nervous animals had sharpened my instinct for reading behavior. Hayes screamed hostility. Strange woman, I muttered. Jen said nothing. The easy rhythm of our evening had shattered. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 11 o'clock, I saw a faint light glowing in Patricia's window. Her silhouette moved back and forth, pacing like a commander preparing a campaign. I laughed to myself. It's just a sign. I thought, just a sign. But then I noticed Jen's phone buzzing on the counter. A text preview flashed before the screen dimmed again. PH, everything is set. Call me tomorrow. PH Patricia Hamilton. I stood frozen. The rational part of me wanted to dismiss it as coincidence. Still, something in my gut tightened. Jen came in moments later, startled to see me standing there. Long day, she said quickly, brushing past. Just tired. I didn't press. I should have. I went to bed feeling oddly proud of that simple wooden sign. It represented fairness, stability, control. My clinic was thriving. My son was happy. My home secure. Everything felt solid. For the last time. The email hit my inbox at exactly 7 a.m. Subject, notice of violation, unauthorized exterior display. It was from Patricia Hamilton, complete with the HOA's shiny logo like a badge of authority. My eyes scanned the message, a list of legal-sounding terms, references to community aesthetic guidelines, and a warning to suspend signage until further review. I glanced out the window. There she was, standing in her driveway, steaming mug in hand, watching my house like a hawk. Beside me, Jen stirred in bed. Email this early, she mumbled, though her tone didn't sound sleepy. It sounded prepared. By mid-morning, the war had arrived at my doorstep. Patricia stood outside, composed and sharp in her tailored blazer. Even her perfume smelled expensive and invasive. Dr. Thompson, she greeted with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We need to talk about your addition. I led her into the living room, the air between us already tight. She refused my offer of coffee and began pulling documents from a sleek black portfolio, spreading them across the table like a magician, setting up a trick she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. You see, she began in that syrupy tone of faux professionalism, the strip of grass where your sign is located has been managed by the Oakwood Heights Homeowners Association since 1987. We have records proving that the area falls under community maintenance jurisdiction. She slid a highlighted page toward me, dense, intimidating legal text. Mrs. Hamilton, I said carefully, our attorney reviewed every boundary before we bought this place. The land is ours, according to the recorded survey. Her smile never wavered, but something in her gaze turned steely. Real estate attorneys don't always understand long-standing community agreements. The HOA stewardship predates your individual deed. I was still processing her audacity when the front door opened. Jen stepped in, grocery bags in her arms, Brandon trailing behind her, babbling about soccer practice. Relief hit me until I saw her face. Oh, she said, freezing. Mrs. Hamilton. I didn't know you'd be stopping by. The two women exchanged a look that made my stomach tighten. Not surprise, familiarity. I thought this was better handled face-to-face, Patricia said smoothly. Your husband and I were just reviewing some documents. Jen placed the bags down slowly, her expression unreadable. She came to stand behind my chair, resting her hands on my shoulders. It should have felt supportive. Instead, it felt like pressure. Mike, she said gently, maybe we should listen. If there's any confusion, it's better to stay cooperative. We're new here. I turned to her, stunned. Cooperative? Jen, the land is ours. We have proof. I pulled up the survey photos on my phone, but Patricia leaned forward with predatory confidence. Mr. Thompson, I don't dispute your survey. I'm explaining that usage rights, established through decades of maintenance, override the paper ownership you're referring to. It was absurd. This woman was calmly arguing that she had more claim to my property than I did, simply because her association had managed it. And worse, my wife seemed halfway convinced. Brandon wandered into the room, clutching his juice box. Dad, why is that lady mad about our sign? Did we do something wrong? His innocent voice cracked the tension. No, buddy, I said, forcing a smile. We didn't do anything wrong. Patricia's tone softened artificially. Such a polite boy, she said. It would be a shame if he had to grow up surrounded by unnecessary conflict. It wasn't a comment. It was a threat. Jen's grip on my shoulders tightened. "Mrs. Hamilton," Jen said quickly, "I'm sure we can figure this out." Patricia gathered her documents with deliberate calm. "Of course. I'm more than willing to be reasonable. Just remove the sign, and this all disappears. If not," she paused at the door, her smile returning, "then the matter will be handled formally. Law enforcement already recognizes our guidelines." When the door closed, silence filled the house like fog. Jen walked outside, making a phone call with her back turned. I couldn't hear her words, but I could see her trembling fingers. When she came back in, her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "Mike, maybe she has a point," she said softly. "It's only a few feet of grass. Is it worth this much stress?" My jaw clenched. It's not about grass. It's about ownership. If we let them take this, what's next? The yard? The driveway? Before she could reply, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "This is a legal office for Oakwood Heights HOA," a crisp voice announced. "You have 24 hours to remove the unapproved sign. If not, we will file criminal trespassing charges." The line went dead. I turned slowly toward Jen. Her expression told me everything. She wasn't surprised. She'd known this was coming. The next day felt unreal. I tried to bury myself in work at the clinic, but even as I stitched up a dog's paw, my mind was miles away. Every ring of my phone made my chest tighten. When I returned home that evening, Jen was pacing the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, whispering. The moment she saw me, she ended the call. "Who was that?" I asked. "No one," she said too quickly. The doorbell rang. Officer Williams stood on my porch again, professional and detached. "Evening, sir," he said. "The HOA filed an official complaint. I'm required to issue this notice." He handed me a document stamped with a county seal. Across the street, Patricia stood on her driveway, watching with a calm satisfaction that made my blood run cold. After the officer left, Jen turned to me, tears in her eyes. "Please, Mike, just take it down. It's not worth this." "It is worth it," I said through gritted teeth. "It's our property, and I won't let them rewrite the law to steal it." That night was suffocating. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The shadows outside my window felt alive. Morning came with another confrontation. Patricia showed up at my veterinary clinic, this time flanked by a lawyer and an assistant taking notes. "Dr. Thompson," she said coolly, "we're here as a courtesy. You still have time to comply." The lawyer handed me a thick cease and desist order. Refusal to remove the signage could be interpreted as continued trespassing, he said smoothly. Criminal penalties include fines and possible jail time. "For standing on my own land?" I asked, my voice trembling with restrained fury. Patricia's lips curled into that self-satisfied smirk. "For defying community regulations. You're not above the rules." That night, I spread every legal document I had across my desk, the deed, the survey, the title report. I spent hours digging through county property maps, HOA registration records, and real estate filings. Something didn't add up. At 6 o'clock sharp, my phone rang again. Patricia's voice was calm, almost triumphant. "Dr. Thompson, this is to inform you that formal charges have been filed. Officer Williams will be visiting shortly." And 20 minutes later, he was there, same tired eyes, same uneasy expression. "Sir," he said quietly, "I'm required to serve you with a citation for criminal trespass." I stood frozen, staring at the paper with my name printed beside the word defendant. Across the street, Patricia watched again, arms folded, satisfied. I'd lost control of the narrative. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't just fighting an HOA. I was fighting a system built on deceit, and someone inside my own home was helping it win. The sirens came slower than expected. At first, a faint echo, like some distant storm caught in delay, then swelling into a full wail that rattled the windows and set the neighborhood dog barking. Blue and red light washed over the front yard, bouncing off the porch rail and the oak trunks lining the drive. Eli was already sitting on the steps when they arrived. His rifle rested across his knees, the magazine laid neatly beside him. The safety was on. His posture wasn't threatening. It was tired, almost resigned. His vest lay unstrapped beside him, a silent admission that this wasn't going to be a standoff. I stood behind the window, watching as 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop near the curb. Officer Williams climbed out first. His face told me everything. This wasn't how he wanted the day to go. Behind him came 2 younger officers, hands hovering near their holsters, eyes darting between Eli and the house. "Dr. Thompson." Williams shouted, "Step away from the weapon." Eli didn't move. "It's unloaded," he said, calm as ever. "You can check." Williams hesitated. He looked at the porch, then at Patricia Hamilton, who had, of course, appeared at the edge of the yard like a general inspecting her battlefield. Her tablet was in hand, camera already recording. "This is a misunderstanding," I yelled, stepping outside. "His not resisting. He hasn't done anything wrong." But Patricia's voice cut through mine, sharp and deliberate. "He threatened us. Multiple witnesses saw him armed in public view. We had no choice but to report him." Lies rolled off her tongue like truth. Armed in public view. I repeated. He was sitting on his own porch. Williams rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Sir, please go back inside." "No," I said. "You know this is ridiculous." He sighed. "I know, Mike." But she filed the report officially. My hands are tied. Eli finally rose, slow and deliberate. He held the rifle by the barrel and extended it toward the officer, showing the empty chamber. "See for yourself," he said. But as Williams reached for it, one of the younger cops shouted, "Weapon in hand," and raised his sidearm. For one suspended second, time froze. The sunlight hit the porch rail. Dust hung in the air. My heart slammed against my ribs. Then Williams barked, "Lower your weapon. Now." The rookie hesitated, eyes wide, breath uneven, then obeyed. Eli set the rifle down gently. "You boys really think I'm your enemy," he muttered. Williams approached carefully, cuffs ready. "Eli Thompson, you're under arrest for violation of a court order in possession of a firearm during a civil dispute." Eli didn't resist. He just looked at me once, that quiet, wordless look between brothers who know everything's gone too far. They led him down the steps. Patricia filmed the whole thing, her smile faint but unmistakable. "Thank you, officers," she said sweetly. "We just want our neighborhood safe again." Safe. That word burned. When the patrol cars rolled away, Jen appeared in the doorway behind me. Her face was pale, eyes glossy. "Mike," she whispered, "what have you done?" "What have I done?" I turned to her, incredulous. "They took my brother because of her lies. Because no one here will stand up to her." Jen flinched, tears forming. "You don't understand. She's powerful. She knows people downtown. If you fight her, you'll lose everything." "Then maybe everything's already gone," I said quietly. That night, the house felt hollow. Brandon had gone to stay with a friend. Jen locked herself in the bedroom, and I sat at the kitchen table staring at the printed citation, the words "criminal trespass" swimming on the page. The HOA had done it, turned a neighborly disagreement into a criminal record. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "This is Officer Williams," came the weary voice. "Eli's being processed now. They'll keep him overnight for evaluation. I'll try to get him released in the morning." "Evaluation?" I asked. "Psych assessment," he said quietly. Patricia claimed he was unstable, said he threatened to defend his land by any means necessary. "She's twisting everything," I said. "I know," Williams replied, "but the report's airtight. Someone high up signed off on it." "High up?" He hesitated. "City Zoning Board. The HOA's legal rep works there. I shouldn't even be telling you this." The call ended. I sat in the dark for hours, every clock tick carving through my thoughts. Somewhere between exhaustion and rage, I realized Patricia's plan wasn't random. She was building a record, step by step, turning us from homeowners into criminals. The next morning, I drove to the county station. The front desk officer barely looked up. "Thompson," she said, "has been transferred." "Transferred where?" "County holding." "Why?" "Didn't say." Order came from the HOA's attorney. That was impossible. HOAs didn't have that kind of authority. I called Williams, but his phone went straight to voicemail. By noon, Patricia had already sent another email. Subject: Community Safety Update. We regret the unfortunate incident yesterday. The HOA remained committed to maintaining peace and compliance within Oakwood Heights. Beneath her words was a photo, Eli in handcuffs on our porch, circulated to the entire neighborhood. My hands shook as I read it. She wasn't just humiliating us. She was rewriting the narrative, turning my family into villains. I forwarded the message to my lawyer. He called me 5 minutes later. "Mike," he said, "I just reviewed the property file again. Something's off. There's a boundary amendment recorded 6 months ago, right before you bought the house." An amendment? Yeah. It redefines the HOA's jurisdiction lines. And guess who signed it? I already knew before he said it. Patricia Hamilton, he confirmed, filed through the zoning board, approved the same day. My stomach dropped. She'd changed the borders before we even moved in. This wasn't a feud. It was a setup. By evening, Jen finally came out of the bedroom. She looked exhausted, makeup smudged, her eyes avoiding mine. "Mike," she whispered, "I need to tell you something." Her voice trembled. When we moved here, Patricia helped with the paperwork. She said she could speed up the closing. I didn't realize she'd added anything. I swear I didn't. I stared at her. "You gave her access to our title files." I thought she was just helping. Everything inside me went still. She forged a boundary, Jen. She turned our house into her leverage. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." I wanted to yell. Instead, I just whispered, "She's not going to stop until we're ruined." Outside, a car slowed in front of the house, Patricia's silver sedan. She paused just long enough for our eyes to meet through the window. Then she smiled and drove away. That night, I made a decision. If the system was going to twist the truth, I'd have to expose it myself. And I knew exactly where to start: the zoning office where Patricia's amendment was born. The county zoning office didn't look like a place where corruption lived. It looked ordinary: pale brick, tinted glass, the faint hum of fluorescent lights, the kind of government building where nothing interesting was supposed to happen. But that morning, as I walked through those automatic doors, something felt wrong. The receptionist smiled too quickly. The security guard watched too long. Everyone seemed to know why I was there before I even opened my mouth. "I'm here to review a property record," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Address?" the receptionist asked. 612 Maple Bend. Her fingers hesitated on the keyboard. Then she said, "You'll need to speak with Ms. Hamilton's office." The name hit like a slap. "Excuse me." "She's listed as a community consultant for Oakwood Heights filings. She handles jurisdictional amendments." I clenched my jaw. "Then I'll wait." She blinked, then whispered into a headset. "He's here," she said quietly. 2 minutes later, a man in a crisp navy suit approached. Middle-aged, confident, practiced smile. "Dr. Thompson? I'm Mr. Yates, Municipal Counsel. Why don't we step into my office?" The walls inside were lined with framed certificates and aerial maps. On the desk sat a folder already labeled Thompson. "Michael, inquiry." He didn't even pretend it was coincidence. "I'm just looking for one record," I said. "A boundary amendment filed 6 months ago. My lawyer said it changed the HOA's jurisdiction lines." Yates leaned back, folding his hands. "Ah, yes. That adjustment was requested by the Oakwood Heights Association. Standard process. Filed and approved the same day." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes efficiency happens." It happened to move the HOA's boundary right into my yard. "That's a matter of interpretation." "Interpretation," I said, voice rising. "You redrew property lines to fit her agenda." His smile faltered. "Careful, doctor. Allegations like that can sound defamatory." "I don't care how they sound. I want the documentation." He hesitated, then pulled a file from his drawer. Slim, too slim for what it contained. He laid it on the desk. Official copy. You're welcome to review it here. I flipped through the pages. Each signature was there, the notary, the zoning board approval, and finally, Patricia Hamilton. But what made my stomach twist was a witness signature beneath it. Jennifer Thompson, my wife. For a second, I couldn't breathe. She was required for verification. Yates said quickly, seeing my face. She confirmed the boundary on behalf of the property owners. Standard formality. She didn't understand what she was signing. I whispered. Perhaps, he said, voice smooth again. But the record stands. Unless you can prove coercion, it's legally binding. I closed the folder slowly. Then I'll prove it. I spent the next 2 days digging. Old emails, county archives, HOA meeting minutes, every document I could find. I even found recordings of public hearings online. Most were boring, filled with jargon about tree maintenance and fencing colors. But one video from 5 months ago stopped me cold. Patricia stood at the podium, addressing the board. Her tone was polished, persuasive. To maintain neighborhood harmony, the association proposes a minor boundary adjustment, aligning maintenance zones with actual usage patterns. Behind her, the projector showed my street. My property line glowed faintly in red, already included in her plan. The board chair nodded. Any objection from the homeowners? Patricia smiled. They've all agreed. The Thompsons are fully supportive. And there, on the display, appeared a digital copy of Jen's signature. She'd been manipulated, maybe even forged. I shut my laptop and sat there for a long time, listening to the refrigerator hum. This wasn't bureaucracy. It was a heist, one signed and sealed under the pretense of neighborhood harmony. That night, I drove to the detention center to see Eli. They made me wait 40 minutes before leading me to a windowed booth. He looked exhausted but alert, his hands clasped in front of him. You shouldn't be here, he said. They're watching. I found the boundary document. I said, she changed it months before we moved in. Jen's signature's on it. His eyes hardened. She forged it. I don't know. Maybe Patricia convinced her it was something else. Either way, it's what they're using to justify everything. Eli leaned forward. Then we go public. Expose her. Bring the whole thing into daylight. I tried, I said bitterly. No one listens. The police, the board, they're all connected. Then find someone who isn't. I shook my head. Who? He stared at me for a long moment, then smiled faintly. You forget I used to work for the county. Mike. There's one guy who owes me a favor. Name's Derek Shaw. Investigative reporter, local press. Tell him I said it's worth his time. The next day, I met Derek at a diner on the edge of town. He was in his 30s, unshaven, worn leather jacket, the kind of man who'd seen too many lies dress as truth. Eli called from holding. He said, sipping his coffee, said you've got something bigger than a zoning dispute. I slid the folder across the table. It's all there. Forged boundary, conflict of interest, falsified signatures. He scanned the papers, eyebrows lifting. And you're saying the HOA president's tied to the county board. She's not just tied, I said. She's directing them. He whistled low. That's bold. You realize if this checks out, it's not just a career at risk. It's a whole chain of approvals. Then check it out, I said, before they bury it. He studied me. You look like a man who's already lost everything. Why keep fighting? I stared at the window, watching traffic drift by. Because if I stop now, she wins. And my brother rots in a cell for her lie. Derek nodded slowly. All right, document. I'll dig. For 3 nights, I barely slept. Emails came from Derek with fragments of confirmation, internal memos, board correspondences, unlisted meeting notes. Piece by piece, the puzzle formed. Patricia Hamilton, former deputy zoning officer, appointed community liaison after an ethics complaint, still had access to the county's internal approval portal. She had rewritten the system from inside. By the 4th night, Derek called. His voice buzzed with urgency. Mike, we've got it. She used falsified consent forms for 4 other properties. You're not the first. I felt the air leave my lungs. Then she's been expanding the HOA like an empire. Exactly. But here's the catch. Her files are locked behind county clearance. We'll need someone inside to release them. I might know someone, I said quietly. Jen. That evening, I found her sitting on the back porch, staring at the dock lawn. I need your help, I said. She looked up, weary. After everything. I know you didn't mean to sign it, but if you log into your county portal, the one Patricia made you register when we close on the house, we can access the original amendment form. It's the only proof she altered it. Her eyes filled with tears. If I help you, she'll destroy us. She already is, I said softly. This is how we take our life back. She was silent for a long time, then finally nodded. Okay, she whispered. Let's end this. We spent the night in the dim light of the office, pulling files, saving copies, tracing log-ins. Each click felt like trespassing in a maze built for our downfall. And then we found it, the metadata of the amendment file. Edited, Patricia Hamilton, 11:42 p.m. Witness signature inserted manually. It was proof. But before I could celebrate, headlights flashed through the blinds, 2 black SUVs pulling up to the house. Jen's breath hitched. Oh God, she knows. The headlights stayed fixed on the house. For a few seconds, neither of us breathed. Jen's trembling hand clutched mine as the engines idled outside, low and steady like a warning. Then came the knock, firm, deliberate, and patient. I motioned for her to stay back and went to the door. 2 men stood there, both in dark suits, badges catching the porch light. Dr. Thompson, one said. County Enforcement Division. We received a report that you've accessed restricted municipal files. I felt my pulse spike. Those files are my property records. Regardless, sir, you don't have clearance to alter or extract them. We'll need you to come with us. Jen's voice cracked behind me. He didn't do anything wrong. He's trying to fix what she... The taller officer cut her off gently. Please step back. They weren't here to debate. They were here to contain. Then, through the dark, a third figure appeared, Patricia Hamilton, umbrella in hand, perfectly dry under the drizzle, her smile polite and poisonous. I did warn you, Doctor, she said softly. You should have let this go. I stared at her, disbelief fading into clarity. You set this up, every piece of it. She tilted her head slightly. Actions have consequences. You trespassed. You tampered. You resisted community authority. I'm simply protecting what's mine. I stepped closer, voice low. What's yours? You stole it all, through lies, signatures, and fake jurisdiction. Her smile didn't falter. And yet, no one believes you. That's a difference between right and powerful, Dr. Thompson. The officers exchanged glances, uneasy. Even they could feel it, the wrongness, the invisible pull of her influence. Before they could take me, headlights flared again. Another car screeched to a halt across the street. Derek Shaw jumped out, press badge around his neck, camera crew in tow. Don't move him, he shouted. We've got the files. Patricia froze. What is this? Derek waved a folder. Public records, Ms. Hamilton. Metadata logs proving you falsified homeowner signatures on multiple boundary adjustments, including your own notarization timestamp, 11:42 p.m. last March. County seal and authorized. The shorter officer took the folder, scanning quickly. His expression hardened. Is this accurate? Patricia's eyes flickered, just for a second. That's fabricated. Then you won't mind if we verify. Her calm cracked. You can't. The officer was already on his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I need a fraud investigator at 612 Maple Bend. We may have a forged public record situation. Patricia's hand twitched toward her phone, but before she could speak, Derek raised his camera. Smile, Ms. Hamilton. You're live. Her composure shattered. Turn that off. Too late. The moment streamed straight to the local news channel Derek freelanced for. Within minutes, it hit social media. HOA president accused of forgery, false arrest. The officers stepped back, unsure who to detain. Jen clung to me, whispering, "It's over, Mike." But it wasn't. Not yet. Patricia turned on me one last time, eyes blazing. "You think this clears you? You'll still lose everything." "Maybe," I said, "but at least this time, the truth will bury you first." The days that followed blurred together. Investigators poured through the HOA's files, tracing Patricia's digital fingerprints. The evidence was damning. Forged deeds, falsified meeting minutes, even kickbacks tied to local construction bids. Officer Williams stopped by a week later. He didn't come in uniform this time. "Eli's been cleared," he said. "Charges dropped. You will both get official apologies. Not that it makes up for any of it." I nodded slowly. "She'll face trial." "Looks that way." Her influence ran deep, but once the press got it, the county had no choice. He hesitated before leaving. "For what it's worth, Doc, I think you saved more people than you realize. She's been doing this for years." Eli came home the next day. He looked thinner but defiant, that same steady calm in his eyes. "Told you," he said, sitting on the porch steps again. "Sunlight fixes everything." For the first time in weeks, the yard felt like ours again. The sign still stood, a little weathered, but upright. Jen joined us with 2 cups of coffee, her silence different now. Not fear, but peace. She looked at me and whispered, "I should have trusted you sooner." I reached for her hand. We both trusted the wrong people. That ends now. The following month, Derek's article went viral. The HOA Empire, How One Woman Redrew the Law. It detailed every forged amendment, every manipulated filing, every intimidation tactic. Patricia Hamilton's smiling headshot became the symbol of suburban corruption, the empire of false order built on fear. She resigned before the trial began, citing mental health concerns. Her accounts were frozen. Her allies went silent. The HOA dissolved within days. But the quiet that followed wasn't victory. It was relief, a heavy, hollow kind. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It exhales. Late one evening, I stood alone in the yard. The breeze carried the faint scent of pine and rain. The porch light flickered softly over the grass that had started to grow wild again, our grass, free of her claim. Across the way, the Hamilton house sat empty, windows dark, for sale sign leaning slightly in the dirt. Eli stepped out beside me, his voice calm. "You ever think about taking that sign down?" I shook my head. "No, let it stand. It's proof that truth can survive even when the rules are rigged." He smiled faintly. "You sound like Dad." Maybe I finally understand him. We stood in silence, the night thick with the sound of crickets, the world finally at rest. For months, Patricia's voice had echoed through our lives, measured, legal, untouchable. Now there was only quiet. And in that quiet, for the first time, Oakwood Heights felt like home.